Saturday 25th. PM had fresh gales at southwest and squally weather. We kept standing along shore to the northwest, having the mainland on the one side and islands on the other. Our soundings were from 26 to 12 fathoms. At 7:30 p.m. we anchored in a bay in 14 fathoms, sandy bottom. We had no sooner come to an anchor than we caught between 90 and 100 bream. This occasioned my giving this place the name of Bream Bay. The 2 points which form this bay lie north and south 5 leagues from each other. The bay is everywhere pretty broad and between 3 and 4 leagues deep. At the bottom of it there appears to be a freshwater river. The north head of the bay, called Bream Head, is high land and remarkable on account of several peaked rocks ranged in order upon the top of it. It lies in the latitude 35 degrees 46 minutes south, and north 41 degrees west, distant 17½ leagues from Cape Colville. This bay may likewise be known by some small islands lying before it, called the Hen and Chickens, one of which is pretty high and terminates at top in 2 peaks. The land between Point Rodney and Bream Head, which is 10 leagues, is low and wooded in turfs, and between the sea and the firm land are white sandbanks. We saw no inhabitants, but saw fires in the night, a proof that the country is not uninhabited. At daylight a.m. we left the bay and directed our course along shore to the northward, having a gentle breeze at south by west and clear weather. A little after sunrise found the variation to be 12 degrees 42 minutes easterly. At noon our latitude by observation was 36 degrees 36 minutes south. Bream Head bore south distant 10 miles. Some small islands at northeast by north distant 3 leagues, and the northernmost land in sight bore north-northwest, being at this time 2 miles from the shore, and in this situation had 26 fathoms. The land hereabout is rather low and pretty well covered with wood, and seems not ill inhabited. Sunday 26th. PM. Gentle breezes between the east-northeast and north. Kept ranging along shore to the northward. At the distance of 4 or 5 miles off, saw several villages and some cultivated lands. Towards evening, several canoes came off to us, and some of the natives ventured on board. To 2, who appeared to be chiefs, I gave presents. After these were gone out of the ship, the others became so troublesome that in order to get rid of them, we were at the expense of 2 or 3 musket balls and 1 4-pound shot. But as no harm was intended them, none they received, unless they happened to overheat themselves in pulling on shore. In the night had variable light airs, but towards morning had a light breeze at south, and afterward at southeast. With this we proceeded slowly to the northward. At 6 a.m. several canoes came off from the place where they landed last night, and between this and noon many more came from other parts. Had at one time a good many people on board, and about 170 alongside. Their behaviour was tolerable friendly, but we could not prevail upon them to traffic with us. At noon, the mainland extending from south by east to northwest by west. A remarkable point of land bore west, distant 4 or 5 miles. Latitude observed 35 degrees 11 minutes south. Monday 27th. PM. Gentle breezes easterly and clear weather. At 3, passed the point of land aforementioned, which I have named Cape Brett in honour of Sir Piercy. The land of this cape is considerably higher than any part of the adjacent coast. At the very point of the cape is a high round hillock, and northeast by north, near 1 mile from this, is a small high island or rock, with a hole pierced through it like the arch of a bridge. and this was one reason I gave the cape the above name, because Piercy seemed very proper for that of the island. This cape, or at least some part of it, is called by the natives Motugogogo, latitude 35 degrees 10 minutes 30 seconds south, longitude 185 degrees 25 minutes west. On the west side of Cape Brett is a large and pretty deep bay lying in southwest by west, in which there appeared to be several small islands. The point that forms the northwest entrance I have named Point Pocock. It lies west, quarter north, 3 or 4 leagues from Cape Brett. On the southwest side of this bay we saw several villages, situated both on islands and on the mainland, from whence came off to us several large canoes full of people, but, like those that had been alongside before, would not enter into a friendly traffic with us, but would cheat us whenever they had an opportunity. The people in these canoes made a very good appearance, being all stout, well-made men, having their hair, which was black, combed up and tied upon the crown of their heads, and there stuck with white feathers. In each of the canoes were 2 or 3 chiefs, and the habits of these were rather superior to any we had yet seen. The cloth they wore was of the best sort, and covered on the outside with dog skins, put on in such a manner as to look agreeable enough to the eye. Few of these people were tattooed or marked in the face, like those we have seen farther to the south, but several had their backsides tattooed much in the same manner as the inhabitants of the islands within the tropics. In the course of this day, that is, this afternoon and yesterday forenoon, we reckoned that we had had not less than 400 or 500 of the natives alongside and on board the ship, and in that time did not range above 6 or 8 leagues of the sea coast, a strong proof that this part of the country must be well inhabited. In the evening the wind came to the westward of north, and we tacked and stood off northeast until 11 o'clock, when the wind coming more favourable, we stood again to the westward. At 8 a.m. we were within a mile of groups of islands lying close under the mainland, and northwest by west half-west, distance 22 miles from Cape Brett. Here we lay for near 2 hours, having little or no wind. During this time several canoes came off to the ship, and 2 or 3 of them sold us some fish, Cavallis as they are called, which occasioned my giving the islands the same name. After this some others began to pelt us with stones, and would not desist at the firing of 2 musket balls through one of their boats. At last I was obliged to pepper 2 or 3 fellows with small shot, after which they retired, and the wind coming at northwest we stood off to sea. At noon Cavalli Islands bore southwest by south, distant 4 miles. Cape Brett southeast, distant 7 leagues, and the westermost land in sight, making like islands, bore west by north. Latitude in per observation 34 degrees 55 minutes south. Tuesday 28th. A fresh breeze from the westward all this day, which, being right in our teeth, we kept beating to windward with all the sail we could crowd. But instead of gaining, we lost ground. A.M. being close in with the land to the westward of the bay, which lies on this side of Cape Brett, we saw, at some distance inland, 2 pretty large villages, palisaded in the same manner as others we have seen. At noon, Cape Brett, southeast by east, half-east, distant 6 leagues. Latitude observed 35 degrees 0 minutes south. Wednesday 29th. Fresh gales at northwest and west-northwest. Kept plying to windward until 7 a.m. and finding that we lost ground every board we made, I thought I could do no better than to bear up for the bay which lies to the westward of Cape Brett, it being at this time not above 2 leagues to leeward of us. For by putting in there we should gain some knowledge of it. On the contrary, by keeping the sea with a contrary wind, we were sure of meeting with nothing new. These reasons induced me to bear away for the bay, and at 11 o'clock we anchored under the southwest side of one of the many islands that line the southeast side of it in 4.5 fathoms. But as we fell into this shoaled water all at once, we anchored sooner than was intended, and sent the master with 2 boats to sound, who found that we had got upon a bank that spitted off from the northwest end of the island, and that on the outside of it was 8 and 10 fathoms water. Thursday 30th. PM. Had the winds westerly with some very heavy showers of rain. We had no sooner come to an anchor than between 300 and 400 of the natives assembled in their canoes about the ship. Some few were admitted on board, and to one of the chiefs I gave a piece of broad cloth, and distributed a few nails, etc., among some others of them. Many of these people had been off to the ship when we were at sea, and seemed to be very sensible of the use of firearms, and in the trade we had with them they behaved tolerable well, but continued so not long before some of them wanted to take away the boy, and would not desist at the firing of several muskets until one of them was hurt by small shot, after which they withdrew a small distance from the ship, and this was thought a good opportunity to try what effect a great gun would have, as they paid so little respect to a musket, and accordingly one was fired over their heads. This, I believe, would have sent them quite off, if it had not been for Tupia, who soon prevailed on them to return to the ship, when their behaviour was such as gave us no room to suspect that they meant to give us any farther trouble.